If you've been told to avoid eggs because of your cholesterol, your blood pressure, or your heart, I want you to keep watching for the next 22 minutes, because what I'm about to share with you might completely change the way you think about this simple breakfast food. This is a conversation I have almost weekly in my clinic here in Virginia, patients walking in convinced eggs are the enemy, when the truth, the actual research, tells a very different story. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how eggs can support your heart, how they can help you manage your blood sugar, the best time of day to eat them, and exactly how many is the right amount for someone your age. Stay with me until the end, because I'm also going to share the one simple way of preparing eggs that maximizes their benefit and minimizes any concern. My name is Dr. Anderson Coco. I've spent almost 20 years working with seniors here in Virginia, helping them age not just longer, but better, stronger muscles, steadier blood sugar, sharper eyesight, and one of the most misunderstood foods I encounter in my practice, again and again, is the humble egg. Let's start with a little history because I think it helps to understand just how long eggs have been part of the human diet. Eggs have been consumed by humans for thousands of years across nearly every culture on this planet. They were prized in ancient Rome, ancient China, ancient Egypt, valued not just as food, but as a symbol of life and vitality itself. And for most of human history, nobody questioned whether eggs were good for you. It was only in the latter half of the 20th century, when cholesterol became the villain of the health world, that eggs fell out of favor, largely because of their cholesterol content. And I want to spend some real time today walking you through why that fear was, for most people, based on an incomplete understanding of how cholesterol actually works in the body. Here's what I explain to my patients when they come in worried about eggs. There's a difference between dietary cholesterol, the cholesterol you eat, and blood cholesterol, the cholesterol circulating in your bloodstream that your doctor measures. For decades, we assumed these two things were directly linked. Eat more cholesterol, your blood cholesterol goes up. But research over the last 15 to 20 years has painted a much more nuanced picture. For most healthy people, the liver adjusts its own cholesterol production based on what you're eating. Eat more dietary cholesterol, and your liver often produces less on its own. This is why major research reviews over the past decade have found that for the majority of healthy adults, moderate egg consumption does not significantly raise the risk of heart disease. Now, I always add an important caveat here, because I never want to oversimplify something as important as your heart health. If you already have diabetes, or if your doctor has specifically told you that you are what we call a hyperresponder to dietary cholesterol, meaning your particular body does react more strongly to cholesterol in food, then this conversation looks a little different, and portion size matters more for you specifically. This is exactly why I always tell my patients, understand your own numbers, get your cholesterol panel checked regularly, and have this conversation directly with your physician, because health after 60 is never one size fits all. But for the majority of my patients, the ones without diabetes, without a specific cholesterol sensitivity their doctor has flagged, eggs can actually be one of the most nutrient-dense, beneficial foods in their entire diet. Let me walk you through exactly why. First, let's talk about protein, because this might be the single most important reason eggs matter so much for people over 60. As we age, our bodies naturally begin to lose muscle mass, a process called sarcopenia. This isn't just about looking strong, it's directly connected to your balance, your risk of falling, your ability to get up from a chair without help, even your metabolism and how your body manages blood sugar. Muscle tissue is one of the primary places your body stores and uses glucose, so maintaining muscle mass is actually one of the most protective things you can do for healthy blood sugar as you age. Eggs are what we call a complete protein, meaning they contain all 9 essential amino acids your body needs but cannot produce on its own. One large egg contains about 6 grams of high-quality, easily absorbed protein, and research has shown that protein from eggs is used by the body very efficiently compared to many other protein sources. I think of my patient Harold, 71 years old, lives just outside Charlottesville. He came to me after a fall in his kitchen left him shaken, not seriously injured, thankfully, but scared. We talked about his diet, and I realized he was eating very little protein throughout the day, mostly toast and cereal for breakfast, a light sandwich for lunch. We worked together to build more protein into his mornings specifically, starting with 2 eggs most days of the week, alongside some resistance exercises I recommended. 8 months later, at his checkup, his physical therapist noted meaningful improvement in his grip strength and his balance testing. Now, I want to be honest with you, that wasn't eggs alone, it was a combination of protein intake and movement. But he told me the eggs were the easiest, most sustainable part of that whole change, because it simply became part of his morning routine. Now let's talk about blood sugar specifically, because I know many of you watching are managing this closely. Eggs have what's called a very low glycemic impact, meaning they don't cause the kind of blood sugar spike you'd get from something like white toast or a bowl of sugary cereal. In fact, research has shown that starting your day with a protein-rich breakfast like eggs, rather than a carbohydrate-heavy one, can actually help stabilize blood sugar levels, not just immediately after breakfast, but for the rest of the day. This is sometimes referred to in research as the second meal effect, where what you eat at breakfast influences how your body handles blood sugar even at lunch and dinner. For my patients managing prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, I often recommend replacing a carbohydrate-heavy breakfast with an egg-based one specifically because of this stabilizing effect. Now let's talk about the heart, because this is where I really want to change the narrative many of you have heard for decades. Eggs contain a nutrient called choline, and this is genuinely underappreciated. Choline plays an important role in heart health, in liver function, and remarkably in brain health as well, supporting the production of a neurotransmitter involved in memory. Most adults, and this includes a significant number of my senior patients, don't get nearly enough choline in their diet, and eggs are one of the richest natural sources available. Beyond choline, eggs also contain healthy fats, particularly if you choose eggs from hens fed a diet rich in omega-3s, which some producers now specifically market as omega-3 enriched eggs. These omega-3 fatty acids have long been studied for their role in supporting healthy heart rhythm, healthy triglyceride levels, and overall cardiovascular function. There's also research connecting egg consumption to something called HDL cholesterol, often referred to as the good cholesterol, because it helps clear other cholesterol from your bloodstream. Several studies have found that moderate egg consumption is associated with increases in HDL cholesterol, which many cardiologists now view as a genuinely favorable outcome for long-term heart health, even in people managing their overall cholesterol picture. Now let's talk about your eyes, because this surprises almost every patient I mention it to. Eggs contain 2 powerful antioxidants called lutein and zeaxanthin. These compounds accumulate specifically in the retina of your eye, and research has strongly linked them to a reduced risk of age-related macular degeneration, one of the leading causes of vision loss in people over 60. What's remarkable is that the fat naturally present in egg yolk actually helps your body absorb these antioxidants more effectively than if you got lutein and zeaxanthin from a source without any accompanying fat. So in a way, the yolk isn't just along for the ride. It's actively helping deliver one of the egg's most protective benefits directly to an area of health, your eyesight, that matters enormously as we age. I remember my patient Dorothy, 68 years old, whose ophthalmologist had flagged early signs of macular degeneration during a routine exam. She was understandably frightened. Her mother had lost significant vision to the same condition in her 70s. We talked about building more lutein and zeaxanthin-rich foods into her diet, leafy greens, and importantly, eggs, which she had actually been avoiding for years out of that old cholesterol fear. At her follow-up exam a year later, her ophthalmologist noted the condition had remained stable, showing no meaningful progression. I want to be careful here. I'm not claiming eggs reversed anything. Macular degeneration doesn't work that way. But stability itself was genuinely good news, and she felt empowered knowing her diet was actively supporting her eye health rather than working against it. Now, let's get into exactly how I recommend eating eggs, because preparation matters just as much as the eggs themselves. The healthiest way to prepare eggs, the way I recommend to almost all of my patients, is boiled, poached, or scrambled gently over low heat, ideally using a small amount of that olive oil I talked about in an earlier video rather than butter or heavy amounts of oil. High heat cooking, especially frying eggs in a lot of butter or oil at high temperatures, can create compounds called oxidized cholesterol, which research suggests may behave differently in the body than the cholesterol found naturally in a gently cooked egg. So the method matters. Boiled or soft scrambled at low heat preserves the nutrients best and avoids unnecessary oxidation. As for how many eggs, this is the question I get asked constantly, and I want to give you a clear, practical answer. For most healthy adults over 60, without diabetes and without a specific cholesterol sensitivity flagged by their doctor, current research generally supports up to 1 egg per day as very safe. And many studies suggest even up to 7 eggs per week doesn't meaningfully increase heart disease risk in healthy individuals. Some of my patients, without any cardiovascular risk factors, comfortably eat 2 eggs most mornings without any concerning changes in their cholesterol panels. If you do have diabetes or known heart disease, I generally recommend working with your doctor to find your personal comfortable range, often somewhere around 3 to 4 eggs per week rather than daily, though again, this genuinely depends on your individual numbers and your doctor's specific guidance for you. As for timing, I almost always recommend eggs at breakfast specifically, and there's real reasoning behind this, beyond just tradition. Remember that second meal effect I mentioned earlier. A protein-rich breakfast helps stabilize your blood sugar for the entire day ahead. Eating eggs at breakfast also tends to increase satiety, meaning you feel fuller longer, which for many of my patients naturally reduces unnecessary snacking on less healthy options later in the morning. Here's a simple routine I often suggest. 2 eggs, gently scrambled or poached, alongside a small serving of vegetables, spinach, tomatoes, or avocado work beautifully, and a drizzle of that extra virgin olive oil we discussed previously. This combination gives you protein, healthy fat, fiber, and a wide range of vitamins and antioxidants, all in one simple, satisfying meal that takes less than 10 minutes to prepare. For those of you managing cholesterol closely and wanting a middle ground, one practical approach some of my patients use is eating the whole egg most days, but occasionally using an extra egg white or 2 alongside 1 whole egg, giving you extra protein without significantly increasing cholesterol intake while still getting the full nutritional benefit of at least 1 complete yolk. Now, a word of caution, because I always want to give you the complete, honest picture. If you have familial hypercholesterolemia, a specific genetic condition affecting how your body processes cholesterol, or if your doctor has specifically identified you as someone whose cholesterol responds strongly to dietary intake, this conversation looks different for you, and I want you to have it directly and specifically with your physician rather than relying on general guidance like this video. Additionally, if you have any known egg allergy, obviously none of this applies to you, and please don't attempt to introduce eggs based on anything you hear here. I also want to mention quality briefly, because it does matter. Where possible, choose eggs from pasture-raised or free-range hens, as research has shown these eggs often contain higher levels of omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin D compared to eggs from conventionally raised hens. It's a small choice at the grocery store, but over months and years it adds up. If you're finding this helpful, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button because every single week I bring you exactly this kind of real, practical guidance for aging well, grounded in both research and 20 years of hands-on experience with patients exactly like you. And I would genuinely love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me, have you been avoiding eggs out of an old cholesterol fear, or are they already a regular part of your routine? I read every single comment, and these conversations shape what I choose to cover next. Let me leave you with one final thought before we wrap up today. So much of what we were taught about food and aging decades ago has been revisited, refined, and, in some cases, completely overturned by better research and better understanding. Eggs are a perfect example of a food that fell out of favor unfairly, and for most of you watching, they deserve a place back on your plate, prepared the right way, in the right amount, at the right time of day. So here's my challenge for you this week. If you've been avoiding eggs and you don't have diabetes or a doctor-flagged cholesterol sensitivity, try adding 1 or 2 gently prepared eggs to your breakfast a few mornings this week. Pay attention to how you feel, your energy through the morning, whether you feel fuller for longer, and how you feel overall. And of course, if you have any specific health concerns, bring this conversation directly to your own physician because they know your complete picture in a way I simply cannot from behind this camera. If you want more guidance like this, real routines, real experience, grounded in what actually works, make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you in the next video, where we're going to talk about a nighttime snack habit that could be quietly affecting your blood pressure while you sleep, and exactly what to replace it with instead. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon.